is real talk, baby, and we're feeling fine.
Hello, movie minions. Welcome to Real Talk. I am Jason Emmett, alongside my co-host, the one and only Twisted Kid Matt. Matt,
Hey.
how are you today, sir?
Doing all right.
That's good.
A little hot in this house, but
better than doing all bad. It's so weird because today you're complaining that you're hot in the house, whereas like last week it was like you were cold.
It was cold. Yeah, I'm in the Midwest, like deep in the heart of it. We've literally been under tornado warnings for the past 24 hours.
And I know I pick on you a lot for this, but you are close to Kansas, and they are known for having tornadoes. You are right there in the like tornado alley kind of stuff. So a lot of flat land where you're at is what I'm saying.
Not a lot of hills. So
not a lot of mountains per se.
Yeah.
So we're going to give it a real quick introduction as to what this show is. And we're not going to dwell on that a whole lot because we want to get into the topic. Basically, this is Real Talk. And what we're going to do on this show is we're going to take current topics or current things hitting the cinemas or current things that are being talked about, news updates, things like that. We're going to discuss it. That's it. That's as difficult as complicated as this show is going to get.
You want our opinions? You're going to get them. You don't want them? You're going to get them anyway.
You're going to get them anyway. Yeah.
Hope you like them.
And we're going to start this episode off. We're going to be talking about, first of all, is it Blumhouse or Blumhouse?
I'm pretty sure it's Blum.
I think it's Blum. But I thought his name was Jason Blum, but is his name Jason Blum?
I think it's Blum, yeah.
It's spelled Blum, so we're going to go with Blumhouse for if you guys know out there.
Come on the show and tell us.
Leave us a
Mr.
comment.
Jason Blumhouse.
But I want to talk about Blumhouse. For those of you who don't know, Blumhouse started way back in 2000. It was a production house created by Jason Blum alongside partner Amy Israel. Now, I actually looked for a picture of Amy Israel and couldn't really find one, so I don't know what that means.
She's living the dream, man. She's just she's off grid.
They've done a lot of movies, but primarily they're known for their kind of focus on horror films. They don't only do horror, but horror is kind of what they are focused on these days. And they have their hands on some of the biggest horror franchises. They have the Purge films. They have the Paranormal Activity films. That's under them. Of course,
they do.
We have the hit or miss. The Insidious films are under them. The newer Halloween films are under them. So all the Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, that's them. Nothing before that, I don't believe. Just those. And I like the Rob Zombie ones are Rob Zombie. That's nothing to do with that.
Halloween 3 is the best.
Megan is under them. Freaky is under them. Happy Death Day, that series is under them. They also do ones like Us and Get Out, The Black Phone, and a ton more. Some in the past that we will get to in a second. But this is kind of what they're known for now. Like I said, they do other things, and they have some that are like made for, I don't know if they'd be Shudder originals, but streaming originals and stuff like that you've probably seen and didn't even know it was Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've been up to a lot recently, and I thought we could discuss it and give our thoughts on the news we've heard. But let's start with Matt. I kind of want your thoughts on Blumhouse as a whole, as a company, as the output they give, as a huge horror fan.
Yeah.
For example, let's get your thoughts on Blumhouse as a whole. What do you think of Blumhouse?
I'm a fan. I don't necessarily watch a movie depending on whether or not well, I mean that could all change. This could all change. Everything I'm about to say could all change with however this goes. I don't typically go, oh man, it's a Blumhouse movie. I go to the theater and go, oh, that's a Blumhouse movie. Cool. And it's something I find out after the fact. However, there are some movies in that catalog that I'm kind of now that the Halloween movies have come out. I really liked Halloween 2018. Halloween Kills was okay. It was all right.
And I haven't seen the last one because of what you're about to say. This is what I get from everyone.
I was not
There's this whole like, what is this movie? It's not. This is what I hear. And as somebody who's not seen it, it's not even about Michael Myers. Why did they make this movie? Like, why is Michael Myers not in this movie? It's about this other dude.
I have a thought. Now, keeping in mind what I said a little bit ago about Halloween 3 is the best in the franchise, in my opinion. hard stance.
It's not really, but
It's not true. It's not true.
We won't go off on this tangent, but Halloween 3 isn't really part of the franchise.
It's not, but it is
supposed to be.
Correct.
Because they were supposed to spin the franchise in a different direction.
Yes.
People lost their minds, so they went back to Michael. So technically it was, but now it isn't. It's kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. I like it a lot too. I think fans do like it a lot.
In the past, we'll say 2 weeks, I've had coworkers come up to me because I dress like a moron at work most of the time. I just wear whatever t-shirt I pull off the hanger that day.
That's fair.
But I have an office job, and people see me wearing a, 1970 whatever John Carpenter's Halloween t-shirt. And then they start asking me about the new movies. And I'm like, okay, well, have you seen X, Y, and Z in the series, whatever? And the fact that they branch off and they're all their own different timelines and everything. And they're like, what are you talking about? There's a Halloween 3. And I'm like, there's a Halloween 1 through like 10. Like there's so many movies and they're all their own little thing.
The problem, they're all their own thing. They stopped interconnecting at some point. They were supposed to, but
there is literally
it was Rob Zombie.
At this point, it's a choose your own adventure series.
Is what it is. And Rob Zombie was probably the one who took that off course, I think.
They took it off long before that.
Well,
because there's a whole timeline where Laurie's dead, and then there's another timeline where she comes back.
You're right.
And there's a timeline when she has a daughter.
H2O.
Yeah, there's a timeline when she has a daughter, and there's a timeline where she has a son.
So somebody, and this isn't. We'll get back on in a second. This isn't a Halloween episode, but you're right, because what had happened is they were intertwining them all until H2O came out the 20 years later, and they just started that entire storyline and said, we're going to pretend. They actually said that when it came out. Those others don't count, only 1 and 2 count, and that sort of started throwing things off. Yeah, you're right. And so much so that we never got a conclusion to some of the questions we had in the series that we were watching. So
now to continue on with your question about what I think about Blumhouse, in those same, the same thing of like, I think they do franchises fairly well, to an extent.
Some of them.
And having said that, the Purge films are some of our favorite films.
I enjoy them. Like, every one of them.
Connie and I have seen all of them in the theaters when they come out. Like we go to the theater to watch them. We watch the series, which I don't know if Blumhouse had anything to do with the series.
I think so. I think it's all canon.
Yeah,
they do a lot of TV stuff.
Yeah.
So that's people just don't always know that they do a lot of streaming and TV stuff that I think people kind of forget or don't know they did.
Yeah. And I haven't seen all the Insidious movies, but the ones I have seen, I enjoyed.
I've seen all but the last one, which for Insidious, for me, it's been every other. Like that one's good, that one's good, that was not so great.
Yeah, and for those watching it at home or wherever you're at, for those watching the video version of this,
there is only a video version.
Well, there you go. So the ones on screen right now, I have seen.
These are all great.
All but one of them.
Which one have you not seen?
I have not seen Freaky.
Freaky is wonderful. I
loved Get Out. I loved Black Phone. I loved Megan. Happy Death Day was awesome. It was like Groundhog Day of horror.
I was not a big fan of
the second one, actually.
It really veers off to I wasn't a big fan. I hear they're doing a third. They're definitely doing a Megan sequel.
Yeah.
There won't be sequels to Get Out, but we have had like other films.
There won't be a sequel to Black Phone, probably.
And
that was a really good adaptation of Joe Hill.
Us is really good too.
Us is incredible.
The stuff they do with Sword and Peele is good.
Yeah.
They have some misses. They have a lot of misses. I didn't see Night Swim that just came out, but I believe that was a Blumhouse, and I hear it's terrible. They have a lot of misses. They have a lot of movies that I think are just like, what the hell is that? But we don't get that many companies now that are giving the horror output that Blumhouse is. You said something a few minutes ago that kind of hit with me, though. You said like, I don't go see the horror movie because it says Blumhouse, and I don't either. When I go to see a horror movie and I see the word Blumhouse at the beginning, I'm like, okay, this has the potential to be really good, or it's going to suck. There's not a lot of in between, I think, but there are companies that we've grown up, going like, I see the name and I'm going to go see it. That was more of a, I think in our age, our era kind of VHS kind of thing. Like I was a used to be big fan of Full Moon. So I knew what I was getting when I saw the Full Moon name, and I made conscious effort to see full moon movies. They're not what they used to be, guys. I miss that stuff. I wish we would see that stuff. You see the Troma name.
I was going to say, I'm that way with Troma. I'm like, oh, hell yeah.
You know what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Blumhouse
There's going to be a lot of gore, and it's going to be ridiculous, like just over the top fun.
One of the things I do like about Blumhouse's horror is it's multiple subgenres of horror.
Yeah.
So Black Phone to me is completely different than Freaky and Happy Death Day. Freaky and Happy Death Day kind of go along the same lines. Get Out, again, totally different than any of the rest of them. So I do appreciate that about them. One of the things I've really appreciated is some of the stuff they've put out over the years that people don't even think about, like Dark Skies, I think is a genuinely terrifying extraterrestrial movie. It's like if extraterrestrials were ghosts, and it works so well. Weird. And that was Blumhouse, and that was earlier Blumhouse, and I didn't even know it was.
I haven't seen that. I'll check it out. That sounds really interesting,
and you will love it. It's done really well, and it's genuinely scary, and it's done with aliens, but it's genuinely scary.
Alien movies freak me out sometimes.
Well, then this one's going to do a really good job of freaking you out because it is done.
Aliens that go into a basement and just oh my god, my entire life would just.
Oh no, suck. This whole movie takes place in a suburb, in a neighborhood, and it's like home invasion with aliens. Trust me, you guys will love it. I've watched it a couple times. It genuinely freaks you out. It's a good movie. Blumhouse has done some stuff I would recommend that people probably haven't seen. I think the one is called Sweetheart? It's on Netflix. It's about a girl who gets stranded on an island, like I think they're boat wrecked, and she's the only one. And there's a monster that's coming out.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And she's trying to stay alive.
I didn't know that was Blumhouse.
It's Blumhouse, and it's
really
fantastic.
Good. Yeah,
like that's what I mean. Some of their output is like people don't even know it's them. So when I see the name, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. Sometimes I'm let down. I just am.
But I think you get that with any production company, to be honest.
And they're, you know what?
They're doing is for the most part, all they're doing is funding a movie.
Yeah, they're producing.
They're taking a script and going, I believe in this enough to give you money to make this thing. Or they're more hands-on, and it is, we're making this because, somebody internally wrote it. But that's with every company, to be honest, every production company. So it's all just kind of,
they're doing sequels to Megan and Black Phone. I know that is happening, and
there is a sequel to Black Phone coming.
They're working on one.
Oh, okay.
And I've even heard rumblings of Freaky. So I don't know how that would work, but we'll see. That's the other thing. When they have a property that works well, they put out sequels that, for the most part, make sense.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the sequel to Happy Death Day, but that doesn't mean other people didn't like it a lot. It didn't have the same.
I hear people talking about the first one more than I hear them talking about the second one.
Yeah, the second one just didn't land the same way. I've heard some weird things about the sequel to Megan. We'll see where that goes. Megan is cheesy and fun.
It's just called Alexa. I
had fun with the Megan movie. Like, it was corny but fun.
Yeah,
and I think they do that stuff really well. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, though, one of the things I really wanted to talk about, and you said you weren't even aware that this was happening. One of the properties they own, because I think they bought the rights to it, is what happened. They didn't originally own it. Anyway, what happens is they bought all of Lionsgate's library. So any horror film that Lionsgate had previously owned, these guys now have the rights to.
And that's a lot of movies.
There's been some discussion about which ones they're going to remake, which is interesting, right? But one of the ones we know they're going to be remaking is they're going to reboot the Blair Witch Project. And I wanted to discuss a couple of things about that with you. I want to get our thoughts out on this one. First of all,
is saying more than I'm saying with my mouth.
Okay, let me give my thoughts really quick on some of this, and then on the Blair Witch, not about them rebooting it yet, and then we'll kind of move on from there. I get it. I understand the impact that the original film had, but I think it was more the story than people thought. This is really important, guys. If you weren't around for the Blair Witch, you won't really understand. People thought it was real, and I know in your brain you're like, how did they think it was real? Because we didn't have found footage movies at the time.
I was one of those people.
as if it was real. I mean, I remember radio talk shows discussing this film as if it were real. They marketed this film as if it was real. So when most of us went to the theater to see it, we thought it was real. This is going to sound corny and like I'm making this up, but this is true. I was sitting in the theater with some friends watching this, and unfortunately, we got stuck in the front row. That's how packed it was, and it was miserable trying to watch this movie in the front row. And
straight up at it.
It was when we walked out at the end of the movie that I said, "There's no way that was real." Everybody's like, "Well, it is, man. Why do you think it's not real?" I said, "Because," and this is true. I was like, I am in school for AV, and I know a ton of film students, and there is no way on this planet that you're going to convince me those 3 kids were film students, because those shots sucked. And they're like, "Whoa, you would be that way too." I'm like, first of all, not all the shots were them being chased through the damn woods. All their shots sucked. And number 2, you don't know much about film, guys, do you? Some of them would die for the shot. As stupid as it sounds, it's true.
It's
and
very true.
Way. Then we found out it wasn't. It was all bullshit. So I think that
they actually gave it away in the credits of the movie. By the way,
did they? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a, it's kind of like a regulation or like a law or something that you have to put like, this is not based on real events or whatever, and like no actors were harmed or anything. They have to make a disclaimer of that at the very end. Yeah. No, at the very end.
So here's the thing. People thought it was real.
Sat through all of it, which people did, because there's weird sounds and stuff being played during the credits that kind of makes you.
I think it's pretty obvious. I'm not a big fan of the movie. I found it like it definitely. I can't see this playing well at home either.
You analyzed it. Is what you did. Yeah,
it's a lot of shots of black and like them in complete blackness and noises and them shoving cameras up in their face, and really nothing happens in the movie until the only part that is creepy, which is that last shot. Yeah. That shot does kind of hold to you, and that sticks with you. But what really grabbed people is they thought this was real. So the movie was working because people thought it was a real thing.
And when Jay says that they marketed it as real, it wasn't just, "Ooh, it's real." There was the website where they made it look like it was real. This newspaper of the missing poster. They had a documentary about the curse of the Blair Witch that I probably have a VHS of somewhere that aired on, I think, the Sci-Fi Channel. And like the marketing behind this movie was genius.
I need to be very specific about something too.
Cannot be replicated in
1999, while the internet existed, it didn't exist like it does today.
Yeah, you had to listen to a fucking robot.
Nobody was discussing this shit. Like there were no big discussion. There were little discussion boards online where people might have talked about it, where you had to log in and you were texting, you were writing text on the screen. That's how it was. So yeah, this was found footage. Now there are some that I think have done it way better.
And this was also not the first, but
this was the first one that hit theaters like this. This was the first one that got marketed in such a way.
You had your Cannibal Holocaust. There's another movie actually that I like to bring up every once in a while when people talk about Blair Witch Project. The Last Broadcast.
Last Broadcast was done first and done better.
Yep.
The Last Broadcast is a truly creepy ass movie. I agree with you. I was going to bring it up myself.
Aren't they going to look for the Jersey Devil?
They are hunters. They do a show on like a fucking PBS type channel, like a cable access, and somebody calls in and says, "Have you ever thought about looking for the Jersey Devil?" So they go out into the New Jersey Pine Barrens to find the New Jersey Devil. But it is like a murder mystery, and it is done well.
It is very good. Yeah.
It's unsettling to the whole movie. They do a really good job, but it's done like a documentary. We should be and it was actually before Blair Witch that they filmed it.
And honestly, found footage movies, from my experience, the ones that I prefer are done in that documentary style.
I agree.
Like Lake Mungo. Lake Mungo is
I love Lake Mungo. Scary ass movie. It works really well.
God, there's actually
the problem with Lake Mungo
is film series that they got to be making a third.
After you realize
you can go back and see this other stuff.
Like, oh my God, that was in there the whole time.
There's there's these 2 others I got to recommend because I actually told Aaron about them. Aaron from Horror Hound Weekend. Shout out to Aaron. What's up? This movie, I believe they're called Terror on the High Plains. It's like 1 and 2, and I just randomly came across them, sat down to watch them, and genuinely unsettling found footage documentary style movies that I watched one of them at night and then woke up the next morning and watched the sequel and was during the day freaked the hell out.
I was scared.
It was genuinely like unsettling, creepy movie, and they set it up for a third, and it is I recommend those. I'm if I'm wrong, I'll put it up on screen either way, what movies they are, but I believe they're called Terror on the High Plains 1 and 2, and yeah, those are really good.
So to kind of get back to Blair Witch, there was a sequel. It's not good. And that bombed.
Yeah.
And then they rebooted this. Not even that long ago, 2017, I think.
Yeah, just not too long ago.
And it didn't work. It was not good. I watched it. I've seen the sequel and the reboot. Didn't like either one.
Yeah.
So
Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, and the sequel, my opinion,
I know people that actually prefer Book of Shadows. But that being said,
all right, sure,
it's whatever.
Completely different movie from the first one.
Did you see the reboot?
Yeah, I did. I actually I enjoyed it to a point.
For parts of it were okay. Yeah. I
liked bringing in new technology of the drones and stuff. I liked that because that's what you would do now.
Sure. So this begs my question: how are they going to reboot this? I think this goes to where I kind of wanted to hit with you. How are you reboot this movie when what made this movie such a mega success is the found footage people believed it? The only movie, in my opinion, which they also own the rights to, that pulled it off, even though we knew it was fake, was Paranormal Activity, which I really loved. And I actually really liked this second one a lot too.
Okay. Yeah. When you said that earlier, Paranormal Activity, I was like, what? I don't know why I was thinking
there. And it might
what
be.
What am I thinking of?
Was that line? I don't know.
No, I was thinking of I'm thinking of The Conjuring when you said that. Okay. That's probably why I was confused.
So yeah, I don't think they don't own the Conjuring series.
Okay. But Paranormal Activity, I really enjoyed I haven't seen the whole series, but the first one I saw in the theater.
I really like the second. I like the one that takes place in the 80s. I think the first
that was really good too.
I thought all did really well. And we knew that they were fake, but they did it in a way that made it feel very real. Yeah. But I think the whole thing about Blair Witch is that people thought it was fake. I don't see this succeeding. Now, that being said, with the right writer, dealing, because the backstory is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Until you make her a witch running around in the woods, then it's not scary anymore. It's like part of it's got to be what you don't see. And just very few people do that well. And the reboot of this movie was not great. And so now they're going to reboot it again. I don't know. I guess my feelings were, how do you do it? How do you do it and get away with it? Because isn't that what made it such a big hit in the first place, is that people thought it was real, and they're not going to think it's real.
True.
You know? So
now the one thing I will say about the reboot, I don't even consider it a reboot. It's part 3.
You think of it as a part? It was a reboot.
Think of it as part 3.
Clear. It was just called The Blair Witch, and it was supposed to be a reboot. But
correct. But in the movie, they are going to look for Heather.
That's
tying it into being a sequel.
Well, that's a reboot. That's why it's not a remake.
True. Okay.
So reboot is when they're trying to reboot a franchise as opposed to I'm sorry,
to get it going again. Yeah.
From what I come to understand, they are remaking that. I don't quite understand if they're rebooting. I got you.
Okay. That makes
sense now.
Okay. Remaking is going to be way more difficult than rebooting it.
Now, I want to, unfortunately, we're going to have to move on a little bit because I want to hit 2 other things and I don't want to run too long.
Set it back in the 90s again.
One of the things I want to bring up really quick, just to kind of let it know it's been going on, and this is kind of a weird thing for me. Have you heard about what's happening with the Blair Witch, the OG, the original actors from the Blair Witch?
I have not.
You heard what's going on with them. So for those of you who have not heard about this, I want to break it down really quick. A few days after it was announced that Blumhouse is going to be rebooting the franchise, the original trio spoke up. It started with a post on Joshua Leonard's Instagram that said, "It's 25 years of disrespect from the folks who've pocketed the lion's share, pun intended, of the profits from our work, and what feels like icky and classless." So it looks like the cast is now requesting retroactive and future residual payments in the amount equivalent to what they said would have been allotted through SAG-AFTRA had we had proper union or legal representation when the film was made. In addition, they are also asking for meaningful consultation going forward on any Blair Witch project that may include their names and likeness. Their final request is the Blair Witch grant, which would see a sum of $60,000 paid annually by Lionsgate to an unknown aspiring genre filmmaker to assist in making their first feature film, with no strings attached, meaning Lionsgate would not own any of the underlying rights to the project. So I kind of want to real quick get your thoughts on this, because I have my thoughts on this.
I have mixed feelings.
Okay, me too. Do you want to hear my thoughts first, or do you want to give yours first? Because I don't want to like.
I'll give you mine.
Okay,
real quick. It's been 25 years. I know that they probably behind the scenes have been trying to get residuals, and if they didn't get residuals, that is completely fucked up.
Is it?
I mean, there's
here's
literally
the
only three main people in this movie. And granted, they didn't know
they weren't part of SAG-AFTRA when they did this. They weren't in the guild.
That was where I was going.
This movie was made on a shoestring ass budget. If
you were not in it, then you don't get the benefits of that.
That's number one. I feel that way.
Now that Lionsgate is not involved, I see where they were like, okay, we would like give us our cut. I get it. That makes sense. It's a massive money making movie.
But therein lies the question. Why do they? I get why
didn't they get it
nice
until now?
They deserve a cut, but why do they deserve a cut? So that's like saying I make They were paid $1,000 a day to do the movie, and I think it was a 6 or 7 day shoot,
and that was about it. Yeah,
and that's what happened. And then the movie got picked up and distributed, and it was a huge success. And now they're like, "Oh, we get some of that money, don't we?"
Yeah,
I'm like, well, no, because
it wasn't in your contract.
You agreed to do and were paid to do the job you agreed to do. That is like
the key phrase that he said in there, though. Had we had the representation at the time,
whose fault was that?
But you didn't.
Yes.
So like I said, mixed feelings.
Now, and some of the stuff they're asking for is ridiculous. Like,
it's ridiculous.
Why should they get any say? So if a movie's made and then a sequel's made and they talk about the person from the first movie, they think they deserve a right to say where the movie goes. Like, it doesn't. You don't get input on what happened with characters. You didn't create the characters. They're not your character.
Yeah.
You don't own them.
Now, the part that I like about that, though, the part that I like about this,
I know what you're going to say,
that they're wanting to start a fund for independent filmmakers.
I like that too.
I love that. That sounds awesome.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a good thought.
Trying to not sound like they're just asking for money. They're like, and we want to do this cool thing.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing. And I would love to see somebody like Lionsgate or Blumhouse just set that up anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think,
honestly, like, I think your Jordan Peele's of the world would do that kind of thing. And he's, going back to Jordan Peele a little bit, he's done that. He's given, like, with the Candyman reboot, remake, whatever you want to call that one. He did that. He put his name, he attached his name to it, helped get that made. And it was from somebody who he saw as being a good filmmaker that he wanted to work with. And
now she's the
movie's
director.
Fantastic.
She's getting to do a lot of other extra stuff because of which is really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I agree with you there. I think these guys are just, not to be rude, but they aren't really actors and actresses. I mean, they were in some stuff here and there.
Heather Donahue's been in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and the other two pop up here and there, but
they go to conventions and stuff like that. And I think they're just mad now and they want to cash in on something.
Would I have my DVD copy signed by them? Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And but you know what you're going to do? You're going to pay for it. You're going to pay to get that, I think it's almost akin to, and I know people are going to say, well, that's what they're talking about. They don't have the representation of, imagine if Chris Evans now said, wait a minute. Avengers made how much money? Yeah. Avengers Endgame made how much? Well, I deserve a cut. We didn't know it was going to make that much.
I didn't have a lawyer.
More than we thought. And I know he did have representation and probably did make a lot more money than they made, but we aren't talking about a big Hollywood film. We are talking about an independent film that
I believe was
distributed.
I believe it was actually a student film.
And then made a buttload of money, and no one expected that to happen.
Yeah.
So to say now, like, well, we deserve extra compensation because it did better than you thought. I get it. I'm not even opposed to.
I think the time for that conversation was during the theatrical run.
They want it now because Blumhouse picked it up.
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, well, it's big. We deserve a big chunk of change. I don't think that that's going to happen. And I don't think any lawyer or any judge is going to agree with them.
But at the same time, I'll play devil's advocate on this. We don't know everything that was going on between 1999 and now.
None.
Like maybe they've been fighting this whole time for that. But if they're coming out of the woodwork now,
you're right. Maybe from what I read, I'm going to call that
the Nevermind.
There was no mention of any of that. Right? From what I read, it was literally this is the first. Suddenly they heard Blumhouse and they're. But I don't know. You could be right. You could be right. Last thing I want to talk about real quick is another Blumhouse property, Five Nights at Freddy's. We knew pretty quickly after the first one that a second was in the works. I'm going to admit a couple of things. I never played the games myself. With my kids, I have watched them being played with people who will play online and then talk about it and laugh and whatever. I've watched some of that stuff with my kids. So I do know the story. Me personally, I really enjoyed the first film.
Convoluted as fuck, to be honest.
With the movie?
No, the plot of the game and like this ghost children and like a purple guy, like what?
Which is why I like the movie, because I thought they explained it enough that it made sense to me.
Yeah.
But I don't play the game, so I don't really know. The first thing I want to ask you,
neither do I. I'm in my 40s.
There have been some behind the scenes images of the sequel that have gotten released, so they are out there. That's actually from the first. I don't know if we have. Do we have any more images? Mm-hmm. I don't know if we have one of the sequel. Just very little has been released so far. Yeah. The first thing I want to ask, Matt, is did you saw Five Nights at Freddy's?
I saw Five Nights at Freddy's with very little context of what it was about.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I actually really did enjoy it. I didn't think it was nearly as scary as everybody was leading up to make me believe it was.
That's not cool that you said that, because the sequel, I guess they've stated that they want to focus more on the horror aspect of the stuff. This one, you almost like at the end, they're kind of the good guys at the end of this one, right? Matthew Lillard is who I love.
Friend of the show. Well, come on the show. We'll talk about this.
His character is going to come back, I guess, and they're going to focus a lot more on the horror.
He's welcome anytime.
Let's be honest. Let's just be honest with each other. Okay. These are always going to be a little bit corny. There's just nothing. So if they don't lean into the fun side of it a little bit, it's not going to work. And that's what the first one did. They leaned into the kind of fun aspect. You're right. It was more horror. I don't want to say comedy, because it's not really comedy.
It was starter horror.
Yeah. Yes.
Horror for the audience that it's aimed at. Which is, I will say this movie was not made for a horror fan like me. This was made for younger kids who are wanting to get into horror, who played the game, who know the story behind it, who love the entire franchise. They love all that.
My kids were so excited to go see that. We saw it in the theater. And I know it released both streaming and in theaters. We went to the theater because
that's how I watched it. Was at home. Yeah.
They were super stoked to see this because they grew up playing the games. Like you said. And this was,
we grew up watching or playing Mario Brothers and went and saw John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins. So
we did. Yeah. But I think that's a really good idea. I think in the right hands, they could have another kind of iconic horror franchise.
And here's the thing. I'll go see the second one. I like the first one enough. I will go see the second one, and especially if they're going to lean into the horror aspect. Because what I have seen of the games, they get darker with it. All the animatronics, they start like rotting and turning more.
Yeah, that's some cool stuff.
Yeah, they're decaying. I don't want to say rotting, but they're decaying. That could
be a lot of fun if done right. So we'll see where they go.
And not only that, but the cosplay world after that movie came out, the live action costumes that I've seen people making are incredible.
Thank you so much for the practical effects in this movie.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Because this would have been horrible.
We'll say this since this is the first episode. Jay and I are both firm believers, and I'm going to speak on your behalf because we've discussed this outside of this. We are firm believers in do practical effects and enhance it with CGI. Don't go all CGI. However, all practical effects can be done very, very well as well. But if you're gonna bring CGI in, enhance it.
This is all you need to do. Perfect kind of ending point for the show, because I can use that to say one of the future topics we're going to be talking about is The Last Ronin. We're going to discuss that a lot, and I know this is something you and I have discussed on that movie that we would like to see. Anyway, those are just some of our thoughts. We don't want to drag these shows on too much, but we would love for you guys to leave comments and let us know your thoughts on Blumhouse, what you would like to see, your thoughts on Blair Witch, and your thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's. Let us know what you would or would not like to see, if you agree with these guys going after them for money now, and are you excited about a Five Nights at Freddy's sequel? Let us know.
Yeah.
Drop a comment. Please subscribe and share. Check out some of our other content. And of course, we will do more of these, guys. So we thank you so much for joining us on Real Talk. And that's it. Until next time, Matt and I are signing out.
Keep it real. Talk.
The Twisted Kids and it's movie time.